Have you ever felt like the universe was trying to tell you something? Right before you met someone who changed your life forever. Maybe you kept seeing repeating numbers. Or a song that perfectly described your future love played everywhere you went. Perhaps you had vivid dreams about someone you hadn't met yet, or felt an inexplicable pull toward a certain place at a certain time. Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant minds in psychology, believed these weren't coincidences at all. He called them synchronicities, meaningful patterns that the universe arranges to guide us toward our destiny. And here's what most people don't know. Jung discovered that before true love enters your life, the universe sends very specific signs. Not the obvious ones you might expect, but strange, almost mystical signals that most people miss entirely. I'm going to share 7 of these signs with you today. And I can almost guarantee that if you're watching this video right now, you've already experienced at least one of them. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what the universe has been trying to tell you about your love life. So if you've been feeling like something big is about to happen, if you've noticed strange patterns or felt an unusual shift in your energy lately, this video is for you. Let's dive in. Before we explore these 7 signs, let me tell you why Carl Jung's perspective on love is so different from what you've been taught. Most people think finding love is about going on the right dating app, being in the right place at the right time, or just getting lucky. But Jung believed something far more profound. He believed that we don't just find our true love by accident. Instead, our unconscious mind, that vast, mysterious part of ourselves we're barely aware of, begins preparing us for this encounter sometimes, months or even years in advance. Jung spent decades studying the human psyche, dreams, symbols, and what he called the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of experiences and archetypes that connects all of humanity. And through his research, he discovered something remarkable. Before significant life events, especially profound soul connections, the unconscious mind sends signals to our conscious awareness. These signals come through dreams, synchronicities, sudden urges, and seemingly random events that are actually anything but random. The problem? Most of us are moving too fast, too distracted, too caught up in our daily routines to notice these signals. We dismiss them as coincidences. We ignore the whispers of our intuition, and we miss the cosmic breadcrumbs the universe leaves for us. But not after today. Today, you're going to learn to read the signs. And when true love is approaching, you'll recognize it long before it arrives. Now, before we get into the 7 signs, if you're finding value in this content, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps more people discover these life-changing insights. And drop a comment below if you've experienced any of these signs. I read every single one. Alright, let's get into it. Sign 1. The completion of an old cycle. The first strange sign the universe sends before true love arrives is what Jung called the death and rebirth cycle. Now I know that sounds dramatic, but stay with me because this is probably happening to you right now and you don't even realize it. Right before true love enters your life, you'll notice that old chapters of your life begin closing in rapid succession. Maybe a long-term friendship that no longer serves you naturally fades away. Perhaps you lose interest in activities you used to enjoy. You might even go through a breakup, lose a job, or feel compelled to move to a new place. Here's what Jung understood. Before something new can enter, the old must leave. It's the psychological equivalent of cleaning out your closet before buying new clothes. The universe needs to make space. But here's where it gets really interesting, and this is what most people miss. These endings don't feel random. They feel orchestrated, synchronized, like invisible hands are rearranging the pieces of your life. I'll give you an example. A woman named Sarah shared her story with me. For 2 years, she'd been in an on-again, off-again relationship that drained her emotionally. Then, within the same month, 3 major things happened. That relationship finally ended for good. Her lease ended, forcing her to move, and she was laid off from a job she'd outgrown years ago. Most people would call this bad luck. Sarah felt like her life was falling apart. But Jung would say, your psyche is clearing the deck. Something significant is coming. Sure enough, 3 months later, Sarah met her now husband at a coffee shop in her new neighborhood, a neighborhood she never would have lived in if she hadn't been forced to move. The old relationship had to end. The old apartment had to go. Even the old job had to dissolve. The universe was creating the exact circumstances necessary for true love to arrive. This is what Jung meant by synchronicity, events that seem causally unrelated but are meaningfully connected at a deeper level. So here's what to watch for. Are multiple areas of your life simultaneously coming to an end? Are you going through what feels like a period of loss or completion? Don't panic. Don't resist it. This is sign number 1. The universe is making space, and what's coming is worth the temporary chaos. Jung had a beautiful quote about this. He said, "In all chaos there is a cosmos. In all disorder a secret order. Trust the process." The breakdown is actually a breakthrough in disguise. And here's a practical insight. During this phase, resist the urge to immediately fill the void. Don't jump into a rebound relationship. Don't desperately search for a new job just to have something. Give yourself time to sit in the space between. This is when the inner work happens. This is when you become ready. Because here's the truth. The universe isn't just sending you true love. It's preparing you to recognize it, receive it, and sustain it. And that requires you to be in a different energetic state than you were in your old life. Which brings us perfectly to sign number 2. SIGN 2. Unexpected inner peace. The second strange sign is one of the most counterintuitive, and it's this. Right before true love arrives, you stop desperately searching for it. I know. It sounds cliché. You find love when you stop looking. You've heard that 1,000 times. But Jung's understanding of this went much deeper than the surface-level advice you read in magazine articles. He observed that when someone is truly ready for their destined partnership, they enter what he called a state of individuation. They become whole within themselves. The desperate, grasping energy disappears. The anxious need for external validation fades. And in its place emerges a profound, almost mysterious sense of inner peace. Suddenly, being single doesn't feel like a problem anymore. It feels like a period of preparation. You stop checking dating apps obsessively. You stop analyzing every interaction wondering, is this the one? You stop feeling incomplete. And this is the paradox. The moment you stop needing someone else to complete you is the exact moment you become energetically ready to meet your true complement. Jung believed that we attract what we are, not what we want. So when we're in a state of lack, desperation, and incompleteness, we attract relationships that mirror those qualities, relationships that are unstable, unfulfilling, and ultimately temporary. But when we've done the inner work, when we've integrated our shadow, when we found peace within ourselves, that's when we magnetize the real thing. Let me share a personal story that illustrates this perfectly. My friend Michael spent years in the dating scene, always looking, always searching, always disappointed. He tried everything: dating apps, singles events, blind dates set up by friends. Nothing worked. Every relationship either fizzled out quickly or turned into something toxic. Then something shifted. He didn't plan it. It just happened. He got deeply interested in his own healing. He started therapy, began journaling, took up meditation. He wasn't doing this to find love. He was doing it because he was tired of living in patterns that hurt him. And after about 6 months, he noticed something strange. He didn't care about dating anymore. Not because he was bitter or given up, but because he felt genuinely content with his life exactly as it was. He had hobbies he loved, friendships that nourished him, a career that excited him. He was whole. He told me, "For the first time in my adult life, I don't feel like something's missing." 2 weeks after he said that to me, he met his now wife, completely by accident. At a bookstore, they both reached for the same book, a book on Jungian psychology, actually. They laughed about the coincidence, started talking, and the rest is history. But here's the key. Michael was ready. His energy had shifted from "I need someone" to "I'm complete, and I'm open to sharing this completeness with the right person." That shift is everything. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But that transformation can only happen when both people are already whole. Otherwise, you don't get a beautiful reaction. You get a volatile explosion that eventually burns out. So ask yourself, have you recently found yourself feeling unexpectedly at peace with your single status? Has the desperate urgency to find someone suddenly lifted? Do you feel more content in your own company than you have in years? If so, this is sign number 2. You're not giving up. You're getting ready. And here's what you should do during this phase. Lean into it. Enjoy the peace. Use this time to become even more of who you truly are. Pursue your passions. Deepen your self-awareness. Strengthen your relationship with yourself. Because when true love arrives, and it will, you want to greet it as a whole person, not as someone looking to be saved or completed, which connects beautifully to the third sign, SIGN 3, VIVID dreams and symbolic messages. Sign number 3 is where things get really interesting, and honestly, a bit mystical. Carl Jung was famous for his work with dreams. He believed that dreams were direct communications from the unconscious mind, messages delivered in the language of symbols and archetypes. And here's what he discovered. Before major life events, especially events involving soul connections, our dreams become unusually vivid, emotional, and filled with specific symbolic content. Now, you might not remember meeting your true love in a dream. The unconscious mind rarely works that literally. But what you will experience are dreams, containing what Jung called union symbols, images that represent the coming together of opposites, the integration of masculine and feminine, the merging of two into one. These might include dreams about weddings or ceremonies, even if you don't recognize the people in them. Recurring images of pairs, two birds, twin flames, mirrored reflections. Symbols of completion, circles, mandalas, rings, perfect geometric patterns. Dreams set in gardens, fountains, or bridges, all symbols of connection and transition. Encounters with wise figures, often an older man or woman, who tell you it's time or someone is coming. But here's where it gets even stranger. Jung also documented cases where two people who were destined to meet would have correlated dreams before they encountered each other. They might dream of the same location, the same symbol, or have dreams with eerily similar themes all before they'd ever met. I know this sounds like something out of a movie, but I've heard dozens of stories from people who've experienced exactly this. One couple told me that for 3 months before they met, they both kept dreaming about a specific lighthouse. Different dreams, different scenarios, but always this lighthouse. When they finally met at a friend's dinner party and started talking, the lighthouse came up in conversation. They were both stunned. They later visited that lighthouse together and both felt an overwhelming sense of destiny and homecoming. Coincidence? Jung would say absolutely not. He believed that when two souls are meant to come together, they begin resonating at the same frequency in the collective unconscious before they ever meet in physical reality. And that resonance manifests in synchronized symbols, dreams, and intuitions. Now, beyond dreams, you might also notice strange symbolic messages appearing in your waking life. You might keep seeing heart symbols everywhere. Or you'll notice couples constantly around you at the grocery store, on TV, in advertisements, as if the universe is saying, "Pay attention." Partnership is the theme right now. One woman told me she kept finding coins everywhere, not just occasionally, but multiple times a day for weeks. She'd find them on the sidewalk, in her coat pocket, even in her shoe once. She later learned that in many traditions, finding coins is considered a sign from the universe that abundance, including love, is coming your way. Jung would call these meaningful coincidences, events that have no causal relationship but carry psychological significance. They're the universe's way of getting your attention, of preparing your psyche for what's approaching. Here's what I want you to do. Start paying attention to your dreams. Keep a journal by your bed and write down whatever you remember as soon as you wake up, even if it's just fragments. Look for patterns. Look for symbols of union, completion, and connection. And in your waking life, notice what keeps appearing. What images, themes, or signs keep showing up in unusual ways? Don't dismiss them as random. There's a reason your awareness is being drawn to these things. Your unconscious mind is trying to communicate with you. It's preparing you. It's saying, "Get ready." Something significant is on the horizon, and sometimes these messages come not through dreams or symbols, but through actual people in your life, which is exactly what sign number 4 is about. SIGN 4. A guide or messenger appears. The fourth sign is what Jung might call the appearance of the messenger archetype, and this one is fascinating because it's so common, yet most people don't recognize it for what it is. Right before true love enters your life, someone will appear who seems to be orchestrating things behind the scenes. This might be a friend who suddenly becomes insistent that you attend a specific event, a family member who keeps mentioning someone they think you should meet, a colleague who invites you to something you'd normally decline, even a stranger who strikes up a conversation that leads to an important connection. These people often appear out of nowhere, or they're existing people in your life who suddenly take on a new role, and they're persistent in a way that feels almost divinely guided. Jung believed in what he called archetypal figures, certain roles that appear in our lives at crucial moments to help guide us toward our destiny. The messenger is one of these archetypes. They don't always know they're playing this role. They just feel compelled to connect you with someone or something. Let me give you a powerful example. A man named David had been single for 5 years after a difficult divorce. He'd built a good life for himself. He was content. At peace, remember sign number 2? One day, a work colleague he barely knew approached him and said, "Hey, my wife and I are having a dinner party this weekend. I know this is random, but I feel like you should come. Can you make it?" David almost said no. He didn't know this colleague well, but something about the invitation felt different, so he went. At that dinner party, there were 8 people. 7 of them he had nothing in common with. But the 8th person, a woman named Lisa, sat across from him. Their eyes met, and David later told me, "It felt like I'd been waiting my entire life for that moment." They've now been married for 12 years. But here's the kicker. David later learned that the colleague who invited him had never hosted a dinner party before that night and never did again. The colleague himself said he didn't know why he felt so compelled to invite David. He just did. That's the messenger archetype at work. Sometimes the messenger is more obvious. Maybe your grandmother keeps saying, "You need to go to this class," or "You should try this new hobby," and you resist because it's not your thing, but she won't let it go. And finally, you give in. And that's where you meet them. The universe often works through other people to bring soulmates together. And these people feel an almost inexplicable urge to help make the connection happen. Here's what you need to understand. When someone in your life is being unusually persistent about getting you to go somewhere, meet someone, or try something new, especially if this is out of character for them, pay attention. Don't dismiss it. Your logical mind might say, "That's annoying. I don't want to go." But your intuitive mind should be saying, this person is really insistent. Maybe there's something here. Jung would say that the collective unconscious is working through these messengers. They're being moved by forces beyond their conscious awareness to play a role in your story. And sometimes the messenger isn't even a person. It might be a book that falls off a shelf, and when you pick it up, it contains information about a place you end up going where you meet your person. A podcast or video, maybe this one, that inspires you to take an action that leads to the meeting. A song that gets stuck in your head with lyrics that describe exactly what's about to happen. The universe is creative in its methods. The key is staying open and receptive. So here's your assignment. Over the next few weeks, notice who is trying to connect you with new people, places, or experiences. Don't automatically say no out of comfort or habit. If someone is persistently inviting you somewhere, consider going. If someone keeps mentioning a person they think you should meet, stay open to it. The messenger is trying to deliver something to you. Don't refuse the delivery. And as you follow these signs and remain open, you might notice the fifth sign, which is both subtle and profound. SIGN 5, an irresistible pull toward a specific place or time. Sign number 5 is what Jung would describe as psychic magnetism. And I realize that sounds very woo-woo, but stay with me because this is backed by both psychological theory and countless real-life experiences. Before you meet your true love, you'll often feel an inexplicable pull toward a specific location, event, or even a specific time period. This pull isn't logical. You can't explain it. You just know you need to be somewhere. Maybe you've never been interested in yoga, but suddenly you feel drawn to sign up for a class at a specific studio. Maybe you've lived in your city for years but never visited a certain coffee shop, and now you find yourself thinking about it constantly. Maybe you feel compelled to attend an event you'd normally skip, or travel to a place that doesn't make practical sense. This is your unconscious mind picking up on subtle energetic signals that your conscious mind can't detect. Jung believed that when two people are destined to meet, they begin orbiting toward the same location, often without either person knowing why. I've heard this story pattern hundreds of times. I don't know why, but I just felt like I needed to be there. It was completely out of character for me, but I couldn't shake the feeling. Something just told me to go, and that something is the universe orchestrating the meeting. One of my favorite examples involves a woman named Rachel. She'd lived in New York City her entire life and had never visited Central Park's Bethesda Fountain. Strange for a lifelong New Yorker, but it just never happened. Then, one Saturday morning, she woke up with an overwhelming urge to go there. She couldn't explain it. It was cold outside. She had errands to run. But the pull was so strong that she dropped everything, bundled up, and went. When she arrived at the fountain, she sat on a bench. 5 minutes later, they've now been together for 8 years and have 2 children. Unconscious. People go to Central Park all the time. And sure, astronomically unlikely. Do you feel inexplicably drawn to a specific location? Is there an event you feel you must attend, even though you can't rationally explain why? Don't ignore these feelings. They're not random. Your psyche is navigating toward a destination. And here's the practical advice. Follow the pull. If you feel drawn somewhere, go. If you feel compelled to attend something, attend. Even if it doesn't make logical sense. Even if it's inconvenient. You're unconscious. Mind has access to information. Your conscious mind doesn't. It can detect patterns, energy signatures. Synchronicity reveals the meaningful connections between the translation, your inner world, your feelings, intuitions, impulses, and the outer world events. Places, meetings are not separate. They're interconnected. And before significant meetings, that interconnection becomes visible through these magnetic poles. So if you've been feeling drawn somewhere lately, don't dismiss it as weird. And as you follow these intuitive pulls, you might notice that your awareness begins to shift in a very specific way, which brings us to sign number 6. SIGN6, heightened intuition and psychic awareness. The 6th sign is one of the most powerful, and it's this. Right before true love arrives, your intuitive abilities amplify dramatically. Suddenly, you just know things. You think of someone, and they text you minutes later. You have a feeling about something, and you're right. You walk into a room and can immediately sense the energy. You dream something, and it happens. Jung believed that as we approach significant life events, our connection to the collective unconscious strengthens. The veil between our conscious and unconscious mind becomes thinner, and we temporarily gain access to information we normally can't perceive. It's like your internal antenna gets upgraded right before you need it most. Why would this happen before meeting true love? Because recognizing your soulmate isn't just a logical process. It's an intuitive knowing. It's a deep cellular recognition that happens beyond the thinking mind. And your psyche needs to be tuned to the right frequency to detect it. Let me share how this typically manifests. First, you'll notice increased coincidences. You think of a song, and it plays on the radio. You wonder about an old friend, and they call out of the blue. You need a specific piece of information, and you randomly come across it. These synchronicities multiply right before the big meeting. Second, your dreams become more prophetic. You might dream about situations that then occur in waking life. Nothing dramatic necessarily. Maybe you dream about a red car, and the next day you see that exact car in an unexpected place. Your unconscious mind is showing you that it's in communication with a larger reality. Third, you develop what Jung called psychic sensitivity. You become more empathic. You can feel when something's off with a friend, even if they're pretending everything's fine. You walk into a space and immediately know if the energy is good or bad. You meet someone new and instantly know whether they're trustworthy. This heightened awareness is your psyche's way of preparing you. Because when you do meet your true love, you'll need to trust your intuition. You'll need to recognize them beyond surface level, attraction or logical compatibility. You'll need to feel the soul recognition that exists beneath words and appearances. I have a friend named Michelle who experienced this intensely. For about 2 months before she met her husband, she became almost psychic. She would know who was calling before she looked at her phone. She would have hunches about things that turned out to be correct. She even predicted a friend's pregnancy before anyone announced it. She told me she felt like she was tuning into a different radio station, receiving information she normally couldn't access. Then she met her husband, and that initial meeting was pure intuitive knowing. She told me, I didn't know his name, his background, his personality. But the moment our eyes met, I knew. Not in a thought-based way, in a soul-based way. I just knew. That's the kind of knowing you need heightened intuition to recognize. And that's why the universe amplifies your intuitive abilities right before the meeting. Here's what you should do during this phase. Trust your gut. When you have a feeling about something, honor it. If your intuition says go here or don't go there, listen. If you meet someone and something feels off, trust that, even if you can't explain it logically. And conversely, if you meet someone and feel an instant, inexplicable rightness, pay attention to that too. Start developing your intuitive muscles. Meditate, journal, spend time in silence. Ask yourself questions and see what answers arise from within. Practice distinguishing between fear-based thoughts and intuitive knowing. The more you trust and develop your intuition now, the more clearly you'll recognize true love when it appears. Because here's what most people don't realize. True love often doesn't look how you expected. It might not match your type. It might arrive in unusual circumstances. The person might not be who you envisioned, but your intuition will know. Your soul will recognize its match. And if your intuitive antenna is tuned and active, you won't miss it. Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams? Who looks inside awakes. Before true love, you awaken. Your inner vision clears. You become more aware, more sensitive, more tuned in. If this is happening to you right now, if you've noticed your intuition has been unusually strong lately, this is sign number 6. You're being prepared for recognition, which brings us to the 7th and final sign. SIGN 7. Accepting your shadow and becoming whole. The 7th and perhaps most important sign is this. Before true love arrives, you must confront and integrate your shadow. Now, if you're not familiar with Jungian psychology, let me explain what the shadow is. Your shadow is the part of yourself you've rejected, repressed, or denied. It's all the qualities, emotions, desires, and aspects of your personality that you've deemed unacceptable and pushed into the unconscious. Maybe you were taught that anger is bad, so you repressed your healthy anger and it became part of your shadow. Maybe you were told that being vulnerable is weak, so you hid your sensitivity. Maybe you grew up believing certain desires were shameful, so you buried them. The shadow isn't evil, it's just unconscious. And here's the problem. Whatever we don't consciously acknowledge, we unconsciously project. We end up attracting relationships that force us to confront what we've been avoiding. This is why people keep dating the same type of problematic person over and over. They're unconsciously drawn to people who embody their shadow, trying to resolve the internal conflict through external relationships. But it never works because the issue is internal. Jung believed that before you can enter a truly mature, healthy, conscious partnership, you must do shadow work. You must face the parts of yourself you've been running from. You must integrate the rejected pieces and become whole. And here's the sign. Right before true love arrives, life will force you to do this work. You'll be confronted with your shadow in undeniable ways. Maybe you'll have to face a pattern you've been avoiding, recognizing that you always choose emotionally unavailable partners, or that you sabotage relationships when they get too close, or that you've been repeating your parents' dysfunctional dynamic. Maybe you'll have a realization about a wound you've been carrying, childhood trauma you never processed, a core belief about being unlovable, a deep fear of abandonment. Maybe you'll be pushed to acknowledge qualities in yourself you've always denied, your own capacity for jealousy, selfishness, or manipulation. Not to judge these qualities, but to acknowledge they exist so you can consciously work with them. This process is uncomfortable. It requires brutal honesty. It often involves therapy, deep introspection, or confronting painful truths about yourself and your history. But it's absolutely necessary. Because Jung discovered this profound truth, we can only experience true love to the extent that we've become whole within ourselves. If we're still fragmented, still in denial about parts of ourselves, still projecting our unconscious content onto others, we'll create relationships that reflect that fragmentation. But when we've done the shadow work, when we've integrated the rejected parts, when we've become conscious of our patterns and wounds, then we're ready for something real, something mature, something that doesn't just trigger our wounds, but actually supports our continued growth. Let me tell you about my own experience with this. Years ago, I kept attracting partners who were critical and withholding with affection. Every relationship followed the same pattern. and I couldn't understand why. Then, through therapy, I realized my mother had been emotionally distant when I was young. I'd internalized the belief that love must be earned through perfection, and that I was somehow fundamentally not enough. But I'd never consciously acknowledged this wound. It lived in my shadow. So I unconsciously kept creating relationships that mirrored that original wound, desperately trying to win the love I felt I never fully received as a child. Once I saw this pattern, I brought it from the unconscious to the conscious, everything changed. I grieved the childhood I didn't have. I forgave my mother. I challenged the belief that I wasn't enough. I did the painful, necessary work of healing that wound. And within 6 months of completing that particular piece of shadow work, I met my partner. And for the first time in my life, I was in a relationship with someone who was naturally affectionate, accepting, and present. Because I was finally ready for it, I was no longer unconsciously seeking to replay the original wound. That's the power of shadow integration. So here's the final sign. Are you being forced to look at uncomfortable truths about yourself right now? Are patterns you've been avoiding suddenly becoming undeniable? Are you in therapy or doing deep inner work? Are you having those difficult conversations with yourself about who you've been and who you want to become? If so, you're in the final preparation phase. The universe is making sure you're ready, truly ready, for what's coming. Because true love isn't just about finding the right person. It's about becoming the right person. It's about healing your wounds, so you don't bleed on someone who didn't cut you. It's about integrating your shadow so you can show up whole, conscious, and present. Jung wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But the transformation can only be healthy and generative if both people have done their inner work first. So embrace this phase. Don't rush it. The shadow work you're doing now is the foundation for the love you're about to experience. So there you have it, the 7 strange signs the universe sends before true love arrives, according to Carl Jung. 1. The completion of an old cycle. Old chapters closing to make space for the new. 2. Unexpected inner peace. The desperate search ends, wholeness emerges. 3. Vivid dreams and symbolic messages. The unconscious speaks through symbols. 4. A guide or messenger appears, someone orchestrates the connection. 5. An irresistible pull toward a specific place or time. Psychic magnetism draws you together. 6. Heightened intuition and psychic awareness. Your antenna upgrades for recognition. 7. Accepting your shadow and becoming whole. The necessary preparation of integration. Now, here's what I want you to understand. If you've recognized even one of these signs in your life right now, something is already in motion. The universe doesn't send signals randomly. These signs appear because you're in preparation mode. The cosmic wheels are turning. The pieces are being arranged. Your job isn't to force it or rush it. Your job is to stay present and aware. Trust the process. Follow your intuition. Do the inner work. Remain open. And most importantly, know that you're not imagining it. You're not crazy. You're not reading too much into things. You're tuned into something real. Something profound. Something that's been understood by wisdom traditions for thousands of years and articulated brilliantly by Carl Jung. True love is approaching. The signs are there. And you're exactly where you need to be. Before we end, I want to hear from you. Which of these 7 signs have you experienced? Drop a comment below and share your story. I read every single comment. And I promise you, your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today to trust their own journey. If you found value in this video, please hit that like button. It really helps the algorithm show this content to more people who need to hear it. And if you haven't already, Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos on Jungian psychology, synchronicity, and the deeper patterns of human connection. I also want to recommend a few things that might help you on this journey. First, start keeping a synchronicity journal. Write down the coincidences, the dreams, the signs you notice. Over time, you'll see patterns emerge that will blow your mind. Second, if you're in the shadow work phase, don't go through it alone. Find a good therapist, a trusted mentor, or a supportive community. Shadow work is challenging, and having support makes all the difference. And third, and this is crucial, be patient with the process. The universe works on its own timeline, not ours. These signs tell you that preparation is happening, but they don't come with a calendar date. Trust that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. I'll leave you with one final thought from Jung that has guided me through my own journey. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Before true love can find you, you must find yourself. Before the right person can recognize you, you must recognize yourself. Before you can create a healthy partnership, you must become whole. These 7 signs aren't just about preparing to meet someone. They're about becoming the fullest expression of who you were always meant to be. And when you've done that work, when you've answered the call of your own becoming, true love doesn't just arrive. It's inevitable. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, trust the signs, trust the process, and most importantly, trust yourself. The universe is always speaking. The question is, are you listening?